And I think there probably are three categories of people who are watching this from afar who are most impacted. First, of course, the Afghans themselves and the families and friends they have all around the world. And then, of course, those UK soldiers and American troops who served in Afghanistan. And perhaps third are people like myself who saw all this happen in very much the same way back 46 years ago, first in Phnom Penh and then in Saigon. The similarities are striking. Of course, the differences are huge. Now, the biggest issue for me, frankly, was the humanitarian issue. In Vietnam, we had a little bit longer at the very end. The South Vietnamese troops fought, the Taliban did not. The South Vietnamese held off the North Vietnamese for 55 days. And so we had more time to get people out. And the evacuation of Saigon began roughly 1 month before the fall. But still, there was a concerted effort to take in Vietnamese back in 1975. I don't see the same effort being made in 2021 with the Afghans.
What does this say? Because all the journalism, certainly in London and in European papers that I'm seeing today, is about a perceived failure of American military power. Now, is that important, do you think, in terms of how people regard America as a superpower?
I think that once again, as it did in 1975, the question of the reliability of America comes up. Is the United States, are their promises willing to be kept? Will they be kept? Can they be believed? And I think once again, this reinforces the notion that America is not necessarily a reliable partner. And I think that's going to be the impact of this, as
is that
it was
dangerous,
for a while.
Jim?
The impact, well, it is dangerous if you assume that the United States has some role in the world to support nations and peoples who need help. And this is where it gets very tricky, because I mean, Biden is right in one regard. The mission in Afghanistan, the original mission, was not to rebuild a country. The original mission was to rid Afghanistan of those radical elements, Al-Qaeda elements, that were threatening directly United States issues. And of course, every nation in the world shapes their policies based upon selfish national interests. It was the whole nation-building aspect that got out of control, it seems to me, and that is the problem, the crux of the problem that we have today. Lifting up the hopes. And I remember standing in front of the American embassy in Saigon after the fall and having a young woman come up to me with her American identification card and saying, "They left me behind. They betrayed me. Why did they do this?" You see the same scenario playing out today.
Lastly, Jim, I ask you to look in your crystal ball. You covered Asia for many years. What do you think the impact of the return of the Taliban will have on the region, especially geopolitically, sandwiched between Pakistan and India?
I think this all depends on whether you can believe what the Taliban spokesperson said at a news conference earlier this week. If you believe what he said, and if they do follow through, and they did make a pledge at that news conference that Afghanistan would not harbor extremist groups from the outside, and will they keep their promises? This is the big question. Is it really the old Taliban of 20 years ago? I was in Afghanistan back in the old days. I accompanied Russian troops when they left, and I must say the Russian withdrawal in 1989 was far smoother than the American withdrawal. The Russians went up through Mazar-e-Sharif to Kunduz and out to Uzbekistan in convoys, and it was a reasonably orderly withdrawal. Now, the Taliban came to power roughly 5 years after the Russians left. And the question is it the old Taliban that is now back in power, or is it Taliban 2.0? I don't think we know that right now. And it all depends on whether you believe what they say. And we're going to have to wait and see on that.
Jim Laurie, many thanks for joining us here on The Agenda.
Thank you, Stephen.